Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello, dear learners. Welcome again to another lecture of the course Fundamentals of Public Economics. We have thoroughly understood the concepts of taxation and of public expenditure. We know two scope of public economics. One was taxation. We have dealt it in detail of taxation, which not only included types of taxes, but the principles that should be kept in mind while taxing an individual. Similar is the case of expenditure. We have dealt with in the earlier lecture prior to this, we have dealt with what is expenditure, where all spaces where the government spends, what are the reasons for growth in expenditure. If we take the data of public expenditure, we'll find a rising trend. Not only rising trend, there exist certain rigidities in the item of expenditure. Like in 1991, if we see, interest payment, defense and subsidies were top 3 items of expenditure. Similar goes with the case here. Only their positions have shuffled, but these remain in the first 5 items of expenditure. So certain amount of rigidity is also there. So you must have understood there are certain expenditures that are necessary and government is liable to do those expenditures for the welfare of the community, for the welfare of the economy and the people as a whole. So many a times what happens, like one of the sources of funding this expenditure is taxation, and we have also dealt with one of the non-tax revenue sources is administrative fees, commercial revenue, profits from public sector undertakings. Apart from that, another source of public revenue, or from where the government raises revenue to fulfill the expenditure requirements, is public debt. So today we'll be dealing with public debt in detail and why it is required to take public debt, why there is deficit, what are the different kinds of deficit that are being witnessed. So let us start with today's lecture. In today's lecture, I'll try to cover the topics of public debt, types of debt and methods to raise debt, how these debts can be redeemed by the government, or what are the various methods using them the debt can be redeemed, how public debt contributes to economic growth, the problem of deficit that is arising, types of deficit, and the reforms, the fiscal reforms which government has undertaken to deal with it, the problem of rising deficits. So one by one, we'll be starting with the topic. So let us start with public debt. As the name suggests, public debt is what? Debt of the public authorities. That means for funding their expenditure, the government raises revenue through public debt. And rather, I would say public debt is something which does not has a long history. It is quite a recent concept that the government is residing on liabilities to fund its expenditure. So in words of Professor J.K. Mehta, if we see what is public debt all about, what he said that it is comparatively a modern phenomenon which has come into existence with the democratic form of government in the world. You see, there are various ways in which the deficit can be managed. One of the way is public debt. So public debt, how do we define it? Public debt is any loan, any debt taken by the government from its people or from outside the country. That means the debt taken by the government, the loan taken by the government from inside the economy as well as from outside the economy, and the price for the debt is the interest payment by the government. So public debt is also known as deferred taxation. Deferred taxation, why it is called deferred taxation? What is the meaning of deferred? Deferred means postponed. So government today is taking debt for a specific maturity period, and sometime in the future, when the government has to repay the debt, at that time, one of the sources of repaying the debt would be imposition of new taxes. You know, with the process of time, we have discussed this concept also, that as the government grows and progresses, certain new taxes need to be imposed, because new kind of products are there, new system is there, growth is there, development is there. So new taxes are also imposed, and earlier taxes, the rates might fluctuate in the taxes which are going on from the previous time periods. So public debt is also known as deferred taxation. In the future time period, the government is taking debt now, and in the future time period, it will pay off its debts by taking taxation. So public debt also known as taxation, deferred taxation. Now, we'll discuss what are the various purpose or the objective, why the government is taking debt, why the government is deciding on liabilities, why the government is paying huge amount of interest internally as well as externally. One of the reasons for this is to cover temporary budget deficit. Now, what is budget deficit? Grossly, if we define budgetary deficit, so deficit would be defined as expenditure minus revenue in simple and precise form. I am not telling you the specific definition of deficit, but broadly what we understand by deficit is expenditures are more than the revenue. So, the deficit is occurring. Now, to source this deficit, to cover this deficit, one of the ways before the government is debt. It raises loan internally and externally and covers the deficit and funded its expenditure. Many a times, wartime expenditure needs to be managed through deficit. See, earlier we have discussed in the lecture of public expenditure that if a war exists, if the war occurs, there are many resources that needs to be diverted towards the war in the form of weapons, in the form of necessity goods to the soldiers fighting, so such in the form of protection, healthcare, everything. So resources do get diverted when the war or emergency situation occurs. So in such a kind of a situation, what happens is expenditure suddenly spurts, it rises. So one of the reasons to cater this wartime expenditure is debt. Now, to remedy depression, see, depression is a scenario in business cycle in which the economy is very pessimistic, capital investment is not occurring, demand is less, income becomes less, poverty increases, unemployment increases, investment is less, pessimism occurs, people don't want to invest. So, such a kind of a situation is characterized as depression. To fight this depression, many a times government has to induce investment to revive the economy. So, to meet such kind of investment, to meet the required condition to revive the economy, government takes debt. See, what I am discussing is these can be the probable purpose or the objectives of taking debt. Not necessarily every objective is fulfilled every time. Now, to finance development projects, the government is taking debt. Various projects for growth, for development, for progress of the economy. Maybe it's related to health, maybe it's related to education, maybe it's related to agriculture, any kind of development project, research and development, government can take debt. For providing various social services for the institutions, for the community, the government takes debt. Many a times to curb inflation. See, if the inflationary pressure is rising too much in the economy, this means what? There is high money supply in the economy and the people have a high purchasing power. Consumption expenditure is more, demand is increasing, supply is not up to the demand, so the prices are rising. So, an inflationary situation occurs in the economy. So, to deal with such an inflationary situation, many a times to squeeze the money supply, to squeeze the purchasing power so that the inflation does not rise too high, the government takes debt. Internally, it raises debt so that the people indirectly gives loan to the government via banks, via post office, and money supply to some extent is controlled in the economy. The purchasing part is some extent to control in the economy. Any kind of emergency that might be a natural calamity in the form of flood, war we have dealt with, or famine is there, or any kind of pandemic occurs in the economy, any emergency situation that occurs lead to taking of public debt. We know to finance the growing expenditure, one of the most common reasons, see, temporary budgetary deficit and finance public expenditure, the growing expenditure. See, we have earlier lecture we have discussed many reasons why public expenditure is increasing. Maybe because of urbanization is there, population spurt is there, many other development projects are there, subsidies increasing, public goods provision is increasing. So the public expenditure is growing day by day. To deal with this expenditure, to finance the expenditure, public debt is raised by the government. And to finance many a times public enterprises, government also possesses certain PSUs and PSEs. To finance public enterprises, government takes debt in the form of credit from the banks. The government is taken. Now, as public debt is taken, private debt is also taken. Private individuals, we, you, any one of us can take a debt, maybe from our relatives or from the bank we can go and take, or many a times debt is taken against jewelry. So individual is also taking debt and government is also taking debt. So now what is the difference between the two? Let us quickly discuss those differences. See, I have taken the first column states the various parameters on which we will be differentiating public and private debt. So the first parameter are the resources. See, since it is a government, so public debt had a wider scope of resources. That means the public debt can be taken internally from within the economy and externally from outside the economy as well. Howsoever, private debt, when we talk of, private debt is external to us in the sense that there is no source internally available for an individual within his arena to take the debt. He has to go to a bank, or he has to raise loans from the capital market, or he can go to a person where he can take debt. So private debt, the source becomes sometimes external. Now, government has not done this, but government can force people to lend. Howsoever, private individual cannot force anyone to lend him or her the money. That becomes a difference. Now, government, if wants, can repudiate a loan. What do you mean by repudiation? That means saying, no, I am not giving you back. Completely a no, to say, I am not returning the loan back. Government can repudiate. There is an option for the government, although it does not. It has not done in India till now. But if want, can repudiate. Howsoever, individuals cannot refuse. So, the object, obviously, when the government raises the loan, the object is public welfare, welfare of people, even the creditors from whom the government is taking the loan. Howsoever, for private, it is not spent in interest of creditors. An individual take loans, we might go and take a housing loan, we might go and take a vehicle loan, we can go and take an educational loan. So what we are doing, we are spending that debt on us only. We are not spending that on the creditors. Rate of interest, the rate of interest on which government raises loan is generally lower. But when a private individual goes and takes loan from maybe a bank or a financial institution, the rate of interest is relatively high. As far as redemption of debt is concerned, redemption means paying back of the loan. So, as far as redemption of debt is concerned, for payment of debt to public, government can take fresh loans from public. We will be discussing this topic in detail when we go to redemption of debt. That will be the next topic after this. So, when government takes loan, what happens is, it can refund its debt, it can take fresh loans to pay off the earlier debt, but an individual have to pay the debt from its own earning. An individual does not has, a private individual does not has an option to take fresh loans and pay back generally. Now, debt classification. Broadly, the debt is classified into internal debt and external debt. See, there are various classifications of debt. Like you can find in various books, you'll find one is voluntary debt and involuntary debt. Voluntary and involuntary means what? That means by a sweet will we are giving debt to the government, and involuntary is out of certain compulsion. I told you na ki government can compel us, although it does not, but it can compel us to give loans, to give debt to the government. So that becomes an involuntary part. Howsoever, nowadays what we do, government floats various bonds, various equities, and then we go and give debt to the government, that is out of our voluntary will. Another kind would be productive and unproductive debt. Productive and unproductive, what does this mean? Productive and unproductive means a debt that leads to, that the government has taken and is contributing to growth, is contributing to development, and capital assets are further created out of that debt, is productive debt. Howsoever, unproductive debt, many a times what happens, as we were discussing in the earlier side, that when the government repays the debt, it takes a fresh loan and does the repayment. So that is an example of an unproductive debt. It is only used for repaying the earlier debt. Then another way how we can classify the debt is short term, medium term and long term. That basically is based on the maturity period. If the debt is repaid back earlier, it is a short term debt. A little longer period is a medium term debt, and a large period, maybe 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, it is a long period debt. Then you can also classify debt as marketable and non-marketable debt. A debt can be bought and sold in the money market, it is a marketable debt, otherwise it is a non-marketable debt. So there are various classifications of debt. However, the broad classification of debt includes internal and external debt. Now, what does internal debt means? Internal debt, as the name suggests, when the government is borrowing within the national geographical boundaries of the country from the financial institutions, from the individuals, from the group, then it is an internal form of debt. When it is borrowing from outside the economy, international borders, it is taking the debt, international countries it is taking the debt, then it is an external form of debt. Now, what are the internal sources? As I told you, internal debt, the internal source would include what? Borrowings from individuals, like we are depositing our money directly, we are not giving loans to the government, but borrowing from individual in the sense like we are depositing our money in the post office, and then or depositing our money through a fund agency, and then that fund agency is further, or in the banks we are depositing, that is further given to the government. Although 80% of the government debt is taken by the central or the commercial banks. You know, borrowings can also be from the commercial banks, maybe from non-banking financial institutions, and obviously from the central bank in the form of maybe treasury bills. Treasury bills is a kind of promissory notes that is given on a discounted value. The treasury bill can be of 91 days, 181 days, 364 days. There are various treasury bills which becomes a basis for giving loans to the government by the banks. The government issues those treasury bill promissory notes at the discounted rate, and the banks give them the loan. Basically, the profit from that treasury bill lies in the fact that the difference between the discounted rate and the face value of the treasury bill. So generally, government issues these treasury bills, promissory notes, and it gets a loan from the banks. See, we cannot get a treasury bill from the government, the banks can get, the central bank can get. So these are the internal sources which the government is using for raising the public debt. Now, as far as the external source is concerned, the external sources included International Monetary Fund, IMF, IBRD, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, or any other government assistance from international countries include the external source of public debt. So, government can raise internally as well as externally. But mind it, yesterday we were discussing that central government has both the sources open to it. Central government can raise loans internally as well as externally. Howsoever, the state government cannot take loan externally. It has to include the central government while it is raising the loan. One of the sources of loan raising or debt raising for the state government is from the center. How the debt is redeemed? When the government has taken debt, then the government has to repay the debt. So what are the various methods that can be used for debt redemption? Debt redemption means paying back of debt. See, so one of the methods, as we were discussing in the difference between public and private debt, was repudiation. I told you government has not done this, but government has an option. The government can refuse to pay the interest as well as the principal amount. In the sense, repudiation means what? Destroying debt rather than paying it. See, if I am saying that I'll not return, see, as an individual, I can say, I'm not returning of debt, that if something is mortgaged as bank, the bank would liquidate that, or if I've taken or risen loan from my friend, I can tell that, okay, I'm not paying you the debt back. But the government cannot. Howsoever, if the government is, be minded, I am saying if the government ever does this, it means it is destroying a debt. Howsoever, it is not practiced, as I told you, and it is not desirable as well, because what happens is, if the government does this, the credit worthiness, the faith of the people in the government is shaken. And if at international front it is doing this, it will not get any kind of debt in the future. So, credit worthiness will be lost and very difficult to raise loan in the future. So, repudiation, although is a method, but not a good method to repay off the debts. Another method is refunding. Refunding basically means old debt is paid through fresh loans. See, when the bond matures or when the debt matures, there is a specific maturity period. When we are raising debt or the government is raising debt, there is a specific maturity period at a specific rate of interest. The rate of interest is not fluctuating because it is contractually fixed with the variations in inflation. So, when the bond matured, the government can issue new bonds to the bondholders under same terms. Many a times it can happen that at a particular point, at a particular time, when a specific bond is maturing, the government does not have that much amount of liquidity. So, just to postpone the repayment of debt, one of the methods that can be used by government is issuing of new bonds to the bondholders at the same rate of interest. If the debt is taken as suppose at 6 or 7% rate of interest, then at that particular time, then if it is for say 2 years, and after 2 years government can do what? At the same 7%, no matter what is the rate of interest at that particular time. If it is high, then also, if it is low, then also. Same terms, same conditions, a new loan is given, a new loan is taken. Then another method is of annual repayment. It is plain simple method. Debt is paid in equal installments, which not only includes the interest payment but a principal amount. A constant and a continuous pattern is made of certain amount that annually the government will repay off debt and interest every year. This is also called as terminal annuity. Another method is sinking fund. Sinking fund is a good method of repayment of debt. That means repayment of funded debt. A fund for repayment of funded debt. A separate fund is created in the name of sinking fund, and the income for sinking fund must be provided out of government revenue. It is a systematic, and the government is repaying of debt from that particular fund. A specific fund with the name sinking fund is created. Government is putting in money amount from its revenue, from its income into that fund, and systematically from that fund the debt is slowly on a continuous basis it is repaid. One of the methods that government can use is conversion as well. Now, what does conversion means? Conversion basically means changing old obligation into new debt obligation. Now, what do we see? Refunding, as I told you, is also changing old loans into new, and conversion is also changing old loan into new. And many a times, both of them are used interchangeably. But there exists certain difference in that. Now, what is the difference? See, under refunding, what government was doing was issuing fresh loans, asking for fresh loans on the same terms and conditions on which the earlier loan was taken. Howsoever, in conversion, what the government is doing, the government is issuing fresh loan just to take the advantage of lower rate of interest, so that the interest payment from the part of the government is low, lesser than the earlier. Usually it takes the advantage of fall of rate of interest. The process is basically involves altering a loan bearing given rate of interest into a loan with a lower rate of interest. So, refunding and conversion, many a times we use it as interchangeably. Another way, what we discussed, like why public debt is called deferred taxation, because at a future date when the maturity period arises, new taxations can be introduced. So, new taxation is another way to repayment of your debt, what the government is taking. So, introduction of new taxes can help to raise revenue. Through this increase, debts can be paid off. One of the special methods which is not used all the time but exists is the capital levy. It is an extraordinary method that can be used by the government when certain crisis or emergency situation arises in the economy. This method is basically adopted to repay huge debt accumulation during the war. See, earlier we have discussed that if war occurs, the resources are diverted towards war, a huge amount of public expenditure is done on the war, and the government's public expenditure rises exorbitantly. So, what happens is, at that time, the government is taking debt to finance to meet its wartime expenditure. A situation of debt accumulation might occur. So, at that time, to deal with the situation of debt accumulation, capital levy can be used as one of the methods. Now, what happens in capital levy? In capital levy, a heavy tax is imposed on the wealthier class of the economy. That means tax is imposed on property and assets. Whose property and assets? Whose value has appreciated greatly on account of wartime situation. So, basically the justification of capital levy is that during wartime, inflation and prosperity, the owners of capital assets, many a times large fortune, so they should be heavily taxed and the debt can be redeemed. So, this can also be one of the methods of redemption of debt. Now, many times a question is asked, okay, we know what is public debt, what is the purpose of taking debt, how the debt can be redeemed, what are the various sources and types of debt. Now, many a times a question arises, is national debt good for an economy? Economic progress, economic growth. So, let us see what is the relationship between public debt and economic growth. only then we will be in a condition to explain and give an appropriate answer to whether a debt is good or not for an economy. First and foremost, debt contributes to the financial system of the economy. How? See, debt, economic growth brings what? Economic growth brings monetization of an increased proportion of economic activity. Basically, as the financial transactions increases in the economy, the economic activity also increases. See, it's all a vicious circle. Somebody's expenditure would become somebody's income, then he again spends. So it moves in a vicious circle. The multiplier effects also works, the accelerator also starts working. So what happens? As the financial transactions increases, the economic activity also increases. As a result, what happens is the financial requirement of the economy increases both absolutely and in relation to national income. That means there is both an absolute and relative increase in the financial requirement of the economy, because everything is going in a vicious circle. A circular path or a circular flow of income is added. So financial system, because public debt taking increases the money supply, enhances the public expenditure, it contributes to economic growth. Now, what happens is it also contributes to the saving efforts of the economy. That means it basically mobilizes the saving. Now, what do I mean when I say it mobilizes the saving? See, especially with respect to an underdeveloped country or underdeveloped economy, it is basically characterized by shortage of capital resources. See, when we define our income is always C plus S. C plus S basically means consumption plus savings. And whatever saving we are doing, since the capital is short, so where the economy especially is an underdeveloped economy, so what happens is here marginal propensity to consume is high. What is MPC? Marginal propensity to consume is change in consumption due to change in income. That means whenever our income is changing, what is the proportion of consumption that is changing? So marginal propensity to consume basically describes what proportion of income we are consuming. With every increase in income, what increase in consumption we are witnessing. So what happens? So capital resources are less, so marginal propensity to consume is high, so marginal propensity to save, MPS, is less. So since the saving capacity of the masses is low, so what authorities do? They have to take an appropriate measure to set up the rates of saving and investments in the economy so that the public can invest, the public can save. They can have public borrowing and investing. The same is one of the measures that is adopted. So the savings are mobilized. So public debt is helpful in economic progress, economic growth. Public debt is also a means of regulating the economy. Basically, what happens is that a lengthening of maturity composition of the public debt is expected to reduce its overall liquidity, while shortening is expected to increase the overall liquidity. What happens is when the maturity period is too high, too long rather, for the government, it has a effect that it reduces the overall liquidity in the sense that the borrowing cost becomes very high for the government. Nowadays, the government does not float a kind of debt that is a scheme of debt or bonds or funds which have a longer maturity period. Why so? Because the borrowing cost for the government would become very high. So, shortening is expected to have an opposite effect. So, it is a means of regulating the economy. The authorities therefore can swap longer maturity with shorter ones and vice versa as a matter of policy. That helps for economic growth. Second, the ownership of government security, what happens is enable its holder to quickly and easily convert it into spendable purchasing power. So, what happens is the public debt is an easy way for the individual since they have an ownership of the government authority that can be easily converted into liquid assets, cash, and can be used, and an individual can enhance its purchasing power. Public debt is important for increase in production. If used properly, it becomes a productive debt. If it creates capital assets, if it is used for development purposes, if it is used for development of educational institutions, safety centers, hospitals, roads, waterways, then what happens? Proper irrigation facility, agriculture is enhanced, so it increases the productivity. It also helps in establishment of basic industries. A small scale industry, basic industries can be established into it. Any kind of natural calamity can be dealt with public debt, or wartime finance can be taken, help to deal with public debt. Any kind of development plan, international cooperation, or controlling inflation. If the debt is able to meet all these things, it holds its importance, be it wartime, be it development. So, you must understand that the ultimate objective of taking debt is not only temporary dealing with the budgetary deficit, but also mobilizing our savings, but also for economic growth, but also financing developmental projects, international cooperations. Many a times debt is taken for that reason also. So, it holds its importance, national importance. Now, when the debt is taken, see, if we take an empirical data of public debt of the central government, suppose internally and externally, what we see, although we see that volume of debt has been growing because expenditure is growing, although revenue is also growing, but not with the same pace as growth in expenditure. The gap is still existing, and one of the ways of filling gap is debt. The volume of public debt is also growing, although the government has managed its internal debt, but still the government has managed its external debt, but still internal debt, a huge amount, the volume exists, although government is trying and managing all those things. So, the public debt basically is related to debt policy with an objective to achieve certain objective and actual implementation of this policy. The objective, what we dealt with, the objective of public debt that needs to be fulfilled. So, it is concerned with determination of structural characteristics like when to float the debt, what is the maturity period, how to refund the debt. The policy measures should undertake all these things so that the burden of debt is not huge on the economy. So, basically, public debt management ensure that public debt policy is not pursued in isolation. It is not a case of partial equilibrium. It should be well coordinated with our monetary and fiscal policy. Basically, the debt can also be used and coordinated with the tools of fiscal and the monetary policy so that the national objective can be achieved. While determining the policies of debt, while paving a way to achieve the objectives of public debt, few principles or things should be kept in mind. That includes the interest cost of serving public debt. That means the interest should not be too high, that the borrowing cost should not be too high for the government. Otherwise, the public expenditure will spurt out in the form of interest payments. Funding of short-term debt to long-term debt should be managed. Public debt must be coordinated with fiscal and monetary policy. Investors should also be satisfied. That means investors should get a return on the capital, and the maturity, the distribution and kinds of debt should be managed. What kind of debt the government is taking. So, if these things are kept in mind, the public debt management policy would be beneficial. Now, again and again, we are discussing government is taking public debt to do what? Government is taking public debt for deficit financing also. Deficit, as I told you earlier, deficit is expenditure more than the revenue. In simple parlance, we say deficit is expenditure is increasing more than the revenue, the gap is increasing. So basically, the fiscal policy plays an important role. See, two important parameters are there for deficit. One is the expenditure and the second one is the revenue or the income. Revenue here I am not saying only the recurring nature, it is basically the income. So two important components that go side and side to deal with the deficit scenario. Because reduction in deficit can also accelerate economic growth and increase in investment can happen. So before go into what government has done to deal with the deficits, let us quickly go through the concepts of deficit that are being witnessed in the Indian economy. That includes the gross fiscal deficit, net fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, effective revenue deficit, primary, gross primary, net primary deficits. And two concepts which were voyage in India till 97-98 was conventional deficit and monetized deficit. So let us know what are these kind of deficit, how they are calculated. So first let us start with the conventional deficit. Conventional deficit was basically the difference between all receipts and expenditure. All receipts and expenditure, basically what does this mean? We say that the budgetary deficit or the deficit is equal to total expenditure minus total revenue, and this revenue would include both and this expenditure would include both on capital account or on revenue account. Capital and revenue account basically means revenue account, revenue receipts and revenue expenditure, those receipts which are of recurring nature, one of the examples is taxation. Those expenditure which are of recurring nature is subsidies. Now capital, if the government has raised loan, it is a capital receipt. Howsoever, the interest paid out of that is a revenue expenditure. Capital expenditure, expenditure on infrastructure facilities is capital expenditure. So it is including both except 91-day treasury bill and cash balances. So conventional scenario of deficit, conventional definition of deficit was this. Then was the monetized deficit. Monetized deficit was basically the increase in RBI credit to central government, which was the sum total of net increase in the holdings of treasury bills of RBI. So that was monetized deficit. That generally what I told you, internal form, that treasury bills are issued by the government to take loans to raise rolls from the central bank of, that is the RBI of the country. In India, the central bank is the Reserve Bank of India. So whatever loans the RBI is giving by taking, if the treasury bills are increasing with RBI, that means what? The deficit is being monetized. Now the main concepts, how the various concepts of deficit have been divided. First and foremost is the gross fiscal deficit. Total expenditure, that means revenue and capital account both. But now what we have done is, it is not the total receipts, total revenue. Howsoever, it includes what? It includes revenue receipts, those receipts which are recurring nature, the recovery of loans. Specifically, if I talk of central government, if central government is borrowing from internal economy, from external, it is also issuing loans. For example, it is giving loans to the state government, and those loans would be recovered and would be treated as receipts for the central government. So recoveries of loan or any other kind of recovery would come under the receipts. So gross fiscal deficit would include expenditure total minus revenue receipts, recoveries of loan and other recoveries. The net fiscal deficit would be gross fiscal deficit, that is GFD, minus center's own lending. Now the central government said ki whatever I am lending is not an expenditure to me. I have given loan to someone which will be recovered to me at a later part on, and that loan I am getting the interest. So I'll minus that, and that would become the net fiscal deficit. Gross primary deficit is basically gross fiscal deficit minus the interest payments. Net fiscal deficit, that is NFD, minus net interest payments. Net interest payment is basically what the central government is giving minus what the central government is getting as interest is the difference, or is the net interest payment. Then the revenue deficit, revenue expenditure specifically minus revenue receipts. Then we have the gross primary revenue deficit is revenue deficit minus the interest payments is the primary revenue deficit. Another concept of deficit which came at a later state of development was effective revenue deficit. Effective revenue deficit is revenue deficit minus grants for creation of capital assets. The central government also provide grant and aid for developmental project, for financing those projects. So revenue deficit minus the grant for creation would include the effective revenue deficit. See, these all concepts of deficit, I would like them to call as window dressing. These all concepts of deficit give you a categorical picture of the deficit scenario of the country. So, what is happening? The deficit is growing day by day and the government is trying to manage the deficit. It is setting the targets that the gross fiscal deficit would be managed. And for this purpose, one method of managing gross fiscal deficit or the deficit scenario of the economy to manage is the method of fiscal consolidation. Now, what does fiscal mean? Fiscal means treasure, that means the money which is with the government. And what does consolidation means? Basically managing or administering the indicators, the instruments, the tools is consolidation. The measures, the policy measures undertaken to manage these indicators. So basically fiscal consolidation aims at restructuring of revenue and capital to put up the budget back to the sustainable part. See, it is always the revenue and the capital expenditure that needs to be managed. See, revenue from the taxes cannot be raised too high because the Laffer curve would start operating, and the expenditure also, government has many liabilities which are of rigid in nature. So the expenditure cannot be reduced below a specific point. So that becomes the irony, and in this irony government has to manage the revenue as well as its expenditure. So this sustainability is basically reached by reviewing existing policies, undertaking structural reforms, streamlining the administrative process, devising new ways of public service delivery, etc. So government's effort to reduce budget deficit and stabilize its debt is the main aim of fiscal consolidation. Basically, as I told you, it is a combination of increasing revenue and reducing spending for a suitable fiscal position. Its importance lies with the fact that it helps in maintaining, if the deficit is managed and the government is successfully implementing the consolidation measures, that means it helps maintain investors' confidence in the government ability to manage see, when the government presents its budget, a budget is also a transparent statement that helps us to see the creditworthiness, accountability of the government. So if the government is able to manage the deficit indicators, it definitely would enhance the investors' confidence in the government's ability to manage its finance. It reduces the risk of any kind of fiscal crisis. See, if fiscal crisis happens in the economy, the unemployment would be high, economic growth will be hampered, instability would be there in the economy. So fiscal crisis should be avoided. It can free up the resources for other priorities like infrastructure. If they are managed properly, the government can further divert its resources from to infrastructure, to education, to healthcare services. So basically, fiscal consolidation occurs in three processes. One is the policy review, second is the sector reform plan. Various structural changes in the policies would include the reform and fiscal consolidation plan. As far as the policy review is concerned, it is the process of that consists of questioning the way the policies are designed, how they are implemented, how public services are delivered to eliminate inefficient policy. Basically, policy review is a control mechanism, or a control mechanism needs to be employed when we are reviewing the policy as to find out the lacuna, the problems that lead to inefficient implementation. So, the level of expenditure should be in orderly manner, the revenue so collected should be proper. So basically it includes the structural reforms, policy reforms, or the process reforms. Either the policies, the way of designing the policies changed, the team requires a certain amount of amendments, or the process in which the policy is being implemented, that needs to be thoroughly reviewed so that the result what is expected should come out. So the main strategy includes reducing government spending. Very difficult for the government, but yet government is trying and managing to reduce its spending. Like subsidy in India was becoming a huge problem for the government. So government is catering and streamlining its subsidies. Income has become the criteria for streamlining the subsidies. We all know this. So government is trying and reducing its spending. The rate of interest is being altered. So many things the government is doing. Increasing the tax revenue. Various taxes, slabs, slots are being designed so that even increasing in tax revenue not only includes the imposition of new taxes or the imposition of higher rate of taxes. The tax revenue, one of the aspects through which the government is trying and dealing with tax revenue, include a strong administrative mechanism to deal with the tax avoidance, to deal with the tax evasion. If evasion is less, then the people would be paying taxes honestly, the tax revenue would increase. Improving the efficiency of public services is also a task of the government, and implementation of structural reforms. See, when we were dealing with taxation, we have discussed many reforms in the form of change in threshold limit, the structure, the slab system, banking cash transaction, presumptive taxation, MAT, administrative efficiency. We have dealt with all these. So these are the structural reform, or the bifurcation of plan and non-plan expenditure that has been removed by the government, or recommendations of the expenditure reform committee. All these are the structural reform that strengthen the fiscal institutions to ensure fiscal discipline over long run. The challenges so faced by the government includes the risk of economic downturn, consensus on tax increase. See, we have discussed many times tax involves a sacrifice. So the Laffer curve also starts working. Even though the rate increases, the revenue does not, because say economic effect would superimpose over the arithmetic effect. Unexpected expenditures, a kind of crisis, calamity, flood, pandemic happens and unexpected expenditure rises there. Many a kind of external shocks are there that leads to this policy measure not performing well. External shocks not only include, like I can give you an example of the Lehman Brothers or the US meltdown. Subprime crisis was there that had an impact on the economy. Since we are a global world and the international boundaries are open, anything happens somewhere else do have an impact on us. This is just for your reference. The deficit indicators of the central government, how has different specific deficit indicators have increased over the passage of time, and the change in figures would definitely let you know that the efforts undertaken by the government, the structural reforms undertaken by the government, that has led to the reduction in deficit. Especially an appreciable reduction is seen in the revenue deficit. See, in 2021 was the time of COVID-19 pandemic, so the sudden increase in expenditure was there. That was a external shock, that was an unexpected increase in expenditure. However, the government has slowly, with the passage of time, catered with the situation. So the government has taken various consolidation measures. Like, if I talk specifically of COVID-19, government took several measures like long-term benefits of more transparent, efficient and taxpayer friendly administration. We can understand the tax administration, we can file our returns easily, the assessment has become easier, digitalization is there, so it is more friendly to an taxpayer, an SSC. It is done through technology, faceless assessment, faceless appeals, taxpayer, the charter, etc. Recent budgets have given up to capital investment. That means capital expenditure has been increasing. It gave a push to private sector while giving tax relief to individual and middle class people. So share of capital expenditure is increasing, infrastructure is developing. That is a good sign for capital consolidation. Government is taking steps to bring people into the tax net. See, in 2003-4, there was an act with the name FRBM Act. FRBM was Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. So under this act, prudent rules, FRBM rules were also there. So prudent measures were taken by the government to manage this deficit scenario, and it was one of the methods undertaken to bring more people into tax net. If I talk of Union Budget 24-25, government has reduced rate for foreign countries. Personal income tax has encouraged for taxpayers towards adoption of new tax regime. And as far as 25-26 budget is concerned, we have seen the rates have been more moderate. The slabs are evenly distributed. Exemption limit has increased. All these so that the evasion is less. People honestly pay the taxes so that the revenue can be raised by the government and deficit can be dealt with. These are the suggested readings that will help you to know more about the subject matter of public economics. So thank you, learners, for today.